Hello and welcome to Casual Cinemedia bonus episode. My name is Chris.
My name is Justin.
And my name's Mike. And today we're going over Steven Spielberg's The Post, the final Best Picture nominee this year.
The last one, and the Oscars are coming up soon.
Yeah, we've covered them all. I think
Actually,
by the time this episode comes out, it'll be a few days
Yeah,
away.
nice.
So exciting. And I guess it's a good time to mention this is the last episode that'll come out before the Oscars are finished and the Oscar bet's over. But so last chance, I guess. We are doing the Oscar bet. Send in your picks for each category for the Oscars, and whoever gets the most picks right gets to choose a film that we'll cover on a Casually Current episode. And you can send those in to us on Facebook at facebook.com/casualcinemedia, or you can do it in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/casualcinemedia. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at casualcriterion, or if you want to email us directly, you can do so at casualcinemedia@gmail.com.
Yeah, go ahead and send them in, but unfortunately, my list is the winning list. So, I want to see your picks, but you're going to lose.
Well, I think Chris is probably going to be the one who loses, but we'll see.
And actually, if you do want to send it in, you actually have a pretty good chance, because we have several entries, but we don't have like a mountain of entries. So like your chances are pretty good at this point.
You can make us watch whatever you want within reason, as long as it's like a movie length, if you win. So
yeah.
Please send those in before the Oscars, and may the best man win.
Which is me.
Or lady.
Which is not me.
Yeah. And speaking of ladies, let's get into The Post.
That was a great transition.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was. Because the paper is run by a lady?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not the full report, but it's over 4,000 pages of it.
Huh. Are these in order?
I don't think so.
There are no page numbers.
Yeah, that's where the top secret stamps were. My source had to cut them off.
We're supposed to retire on Friday.
Ben, how are we supposed to comb through 4,000 pages?
They're
of
not
material?
even loosely
The
organized?
Times had 3 months. There's no way we can possibly
He's
get this
right.
much.
We got less than 8 hours.
We could shoot for city, then we'd have 10.
Hey, for the last 6 years, we've been playing catch-up, and now thanks to the President of the United States, who, by the way, has taken a shit all over the First Amendment, we have the goods. We don't have any competition.
So first, before we get going, we're going to do a non-spoiler section first, where we talk about the film generally without any spoilers. And then we'll move into spoilers, but we'll give you a good warning so that you can not continue to listen if you haven't seen the film yet. But for now, keep listening.
Yeah, this is history, though, so
it probably is already spoiled for you to some degree.
Yeah, it was spoiled for me, and for sure. So the Post, it's basically the story of the Washington Post when they were a struggling newspaper, and they came across the story of the I guess like U.S. government lying about Vietnam War and the reasons they were in it, and how deep their involvement was, etc.
That's right, and it went for 4 presidencies before they found out.
I guess overall feelings. Who wants to go first? Chris, how about you?
Oh, well, I have to tell you, I got MoviePass. The one problem with MoviePass is you can't reserve your tickets. And so I went to see The Post on Sunday, like at 4 o'clock, and I didn't think that it would be sold out, but it was like a small theater, so I had to sit on the front row to watch the film. And so it was larger than life. But the cool thing was all the seats were the reclining seats. So like I was on the front row, but I could recline back so far enough that it wasn't as bad. But,
Sweet.
Yeah. But yeah, so, I love Steven Spielberg, so my expectations were pretty high, but I didn't think this was going to be, adventure Spielberg, right? This is Bridge of Spies Spielberg. And so I was excited to see it. My general thoughts, it's probably not my favorite Spielberg film. It seemed like there was a lot of moments, like hero shots, like a lot of where they felt like they were too important, right? Like it felt a little, what would you call that? Like self-important. And it is an important story to tell, but it felt like they took themselves a little bit too seriously or too important,
Yeah, it could be like the characters, like while things were going on, were aware of like how important what they were doing was going to be.
No, like the filmmakers or like the actors, like there was like hero shots, like that felt almost like what you would get from a parody. Did you guys see Seth Meyers did a parody of the newspaper film. And so unfortunately I watched that first. So he parodies the newspaper film. And so he kind of had it dead on with this movie, I think. So it just felt a little bit too self-important. What did you think, Mike?
First of all, it has a great cast.
Yes, I agree.
Other than that, I don't know that there's a lot going on here. It's not bad by any stretch of the word.
Right.
But I don't think this is anybody at the top of their game, right? Except for maybe some of the actors.
What were your
I would agree.
expectations when you, I mean, like just before you went in?
My expectations were that I would get something that felt a little more profound. I was expecting something to affect me the same way Spotlight a couple years ago affected me, right? I think Spotlight is a better example of like a newspaper journalism, like a movie to accentuate how important the press is in these troubling times whenever the press is constantly under attack. I think Spotlight is better in every regard, right? I think this movie is trying to be Spotlight or All the President's Men or any given newspaper movie that tries to be important. But I don't know if it ever rises to those levels. I feel like there's nothing at all bad in this movie. It just never rises above anything other than acceptable.
Yeah, I guess what I was trying to it's a reaction to Trump being president, right? And it's and it feels reactionary, like it's almost an overreaction. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, I mentioned this movie, I think, a few episodes back under the What's on Our Minds section, and I said that I think my problem with it is that it's timely and important, but it also constantly reminds you of how timely and important it is.
Yeah, that's actually pretty smart.
Yeah. So what about you, Justin? What do you think about the post?
Well, I kind of line up with what you're saying. Like, I do think it's a great cast, or cast full of great actors. I do kind of think they are a great cast doing just good things in here. Like, nobody really interested me in terms of their performance. Like, I kind of got everything I expected, and some of it just seemed, I don't know, not very impressive to me. Nothing that like really made me feel anything. And I don't know that that's entirely to blame on the acting. I think it could also come down to the story, because the story is kind of half about this idea that the president or the White House is trying to keep the paper from printing secrets, and then there's another half about actually trying to get the secrets and like the documents that they need. And then there's also a part where they're trying to sort through the documents, and I kind of feel like it never really tackled either idea or either story as fully as it needed to be. So it kind of felt like two like unfulfilled halves of a movie to me.
Yeah,
like,
I feel
pushed
like
together to try to make a whole movie. And maybe they just tried to touch too much on the story, but like I never got attached to any one problem or character.
Here's what I think would have made the movie a little better. Tell me what you think. I think Meryl Streep is the most interesting character and has the most interesting arc throughout this movie.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
And I think Tom Hanks is in there because he's Steven Spielberg's buddy. I don't know that Tom Hanks's part needed to be like 40% of the movie. I think Tom Hanks' character should have had no bigger of a part than like the Bob Odenkirk character or the David Cross character. And we should have really been with the heart and soul of the movie, which is Meryl Streep's character, who has all the conflict and all the actual drama to do.
Yeah, I would say the Meryl Streep storyline is what I was the most interested in. You know, those were the two halves of the movie, right? It was, you know, finding out about the McNamara reports, and then Meryl Streep, who's friends with McNamara, which I found endlessly. Like, that was really interesting.
Bruce Greenwood was really good in it,
yeah.
opposite of Meryl Streep as well.
And I think Steven Spielberg does what he can to try to make it interesting with he does a lot of like one takes or big sweeping camera moves, and I found that really interesting.
Sure.
But ultimately not as good as the other Oscar movies that we've watched.
I think it kind of felt sort of boilerplate Spielberg to me. Like, honestly, I found almost none of the filmmaking very interesting about it. Like, even like the typical, you know, like you said, Spielberg one shot or whatever you want to call it. Like, it just nothing moved me in the movie. Like, I was borderline bored during it. Like, I'll say I just don't like the movie. I don't know if that's been said explicitly by anybody, but I will say it. I didn't like it.
Well, here's why I feel like that is. And I wouldn't say I didn't like it, but I would say that it's so mediocre that I would rather watch a bad movie that I don't like versus this one again.
Yeah.
But here's why I think that probably is, right? So according to IMDb's trivia section, this movie was fast-tracked to be released because Steven Spielberg wanted it to be released because of its timeliness and its message.
Because
right?
it was so reactionary, they rushed it.
Right. So it says that they started shooting in May 2017, right? And ended in July. So, and edited a version of it, probably a rough version of it, 2 weeks later. So the whole process from script to like theaters took like 9 months. And I think it shows, right?
Definitely.
I think like he finished it, filmed it, and released it while Ready Player One was in post-production, and that movie hasn't even come out yet.
Right.
It feels like one of those movies from filmmakers who put out too many movies, right? Like a Clint Eastwood or a Woody Allen in the last 20 years type. Like, whereas every now and then they'll have a hit every few years that's like exceptional. But generally speaking, they put out movies too fast to plan them and write them to where they have any real emotional impact. At least I find that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, there's so much logistics into making a film. I would feel like at a certain point you're just trying to get the film made and don't really have time to sit there and think about like, what is the most interesting thing in this story? What is the thing that makes this story work as a film? And because I don't think they found it and focused on it.
I mean, I think this is a decent movie. But yeah, you're right. It could have been a much better, like Trump's not going anywhere, at least that we know of yet. But, you know, if you had taken a little bit of time, maybe Spielberg's schedule was open at that one time, you know, because he's got so much going on. And so they had to do it then or they weren't going to be able to do it. But ultimately, I think if they had taken a little bit more time, this could have been a great movie.
Yeah. Because Spotlight's great, and it's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say Spotlight is great. Absolutely great. I watched that movie a couple months ago. It is still great. And unfortunately, I couldn't help but think of how I was wishing I was watching that movie while I was watching this movie.
There was a lot of things I was watching other than the post.
I mean, I enjoyed it. Like, I mean, when I was in there, but I don't think ultimately, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
where does it rank on your Hanks Spielberg collaboration? This is like, I think their 5th movie. They've done like Saving Private Ryan, Catch Me If You Can, The Terminal, Bridge of Spies, and then this one. I haven't seen Bridge of Spies, but of the ones I've seen all the rest of them.
Yeah, I haven't seen Bridge of Spies.
And I would say
either.
this is probably right above The Terminal.
Yes.
For me. I haven't seen Bridge of Spies, but...
Is The Terminal bad? I haven't seen it since theaters.
No, but I remember... Well, let's put it this way. My taste in movies in 2004 was not as refined as it is now. And I remember thinking in 2004, this wasn't that good.
Right.
So I would shudder to think what I think now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure that The Terminal is super great. This is better than The Terminal for sure, but I don't think it's better than any of the other ones.
I can't say for sure. I remember really enjoying The Terminal, but it was in 2004. And
I mean,
yeah,
like my favorite movie then was Anchorman. So
yeah. Neither The Post nor The Terminal are as good as Saving Private Ryan or Catch Me If You Can. I think that's pretty indisputable.
Agreed. So you want to get into spoilers?
I do.
Let's do it.
Consider yourself warned. Stop listening now if you have not seen The Post.
So it's really crazy in this movie when the atomic bomb goes off. Meryl Streep has to deactivate the bomb. All right, that was just a...
One of these days, we're actually going to watch a movie with an atomic bomb, and you won't be able to make that joke.
I know.
Well, that was for the people that were listening to the spoilers and just went a little bit too long, and now they're going to be completely surprised by how this movie turns out.
Yeah. It's going to feel very anticlimactic to those people. So I don't know if this was a spoiler or not, but I saved it till now. Just like one of the things that really bothers me is how much time we spend talking about the stock prices of Washington Post and them getting ready to go public. And like, I understand that they're like, establishing that the company is in trouble and that they need to sell stocks in order to stay afloat.
Right.
And I understand that, but if we spend so much time, why do we have to even see like the shareholder meeting late in the movie when she goes and talks to him about...
Wait, which one?
When Meryl Streep goes and she talks, there's like a board meeting or whatever.
The first one?
The first one and the second one, but...
Well, the first one, I would say the reason we see that is because that's part of her arc. Like, she's got all these things planned out to say, and then she just kind of shuts down, and they look past her. She, like as a woman, she's not like she can't really talk. In this board meeting, she hasn't taken control yet, and then at the end, we see where she does take control. So like that's part of the arc.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems again like another portion of the movie that was like a story that we didn't need to spend as much time on as we did, and I don't know, it wasn't that interesting to me.
Well, I think that's because I kind of mentioned it earlier. I think the movie feels unfocused. I think if Meryl Streep was our main protagonist, undoubtedly, I don't think you would have that complaint, right? But because Meryl Streep has to share this story with Tom Hanks for some damn reason, I feel like his story isn't interesting in the least, right? Like, all his job is to, like, tell the other guys who are doing the more interesting stuff, like, keep doing that. I'm going to go tell Meryl Streep's character how she should think and feel. And that's really his only function. I don't think we needed the at-home stuff with his wife. I don't think we needed any of that. I think we should have just cut his part down and spent time with the heart and soul of the movie, which is the only one with any kind of interesting arc. And that's her trying to overcome the misogyny, right? In like the Mad Men era of things.
I guess it's like I don't even get that strong of a sense of her fighting the misogyny, which I think is to your point that it wasn't focused enough on it. Because I know it's there and I can recognize it, but like it didn't actually get me behind her cause that much. I guess like I never got attached enough to that particular story because we were always moving on and like following the story of trying to get a hold of
the papers,
the confidential papers, or following the story of like what is the Supreme Court going to do? Are they going to rule in our favor? Yeah. And then I thought there was something at some point about they were trying to find one of the reporters from the New York Times, and I'm not sure.
Oh, that was because they didn't know what story the New York Times was going to put out yet. They knew that he had a big story, but they didn't know what. I think I like the Meryl Streep stuff, and I got behind her.
I did too.
It kind of got split. There's a scene where I think it was towards the end, and they had just like done some sort of court thing, and it was really funny. So the three men are walking down the hallway doing like a walk and talk, and then Meryl Streep's like popping. She's trying to get in there, and so she's like popping up in either side of them. And I thought that was really good, and I like that story. I think you're right that they kind of should have gone further with that story, or gone further with the other one. But I really enjoyed the Meryl Streep arc. That's what I took away from the movie for sure.
I think it's the most enjoyable thing about the movie. One of the few things that I did enjoy, I suppose.
Well, here's what I thought was really good about the Meryl Streep arc. Is her relationship with her daughter, Alison Brie. Mm-hmm. It didn't really get explored until like deep into Act 2. But there was one scene that was really good. It's where she's talking to Alison Brie, and I think they're in like Alison Brie's bedroom, and she's basically like confessing everything to her daughter, right? Which is like, I'm having doubts about everything. I don't want to be the one who messes up this company. I love this company. I don't want to let everyone down. Everyone thinks I shouldn't be here. Everyone's second guessing me because I'm a woman, and I think they may be right. And then right after that is whenever they like spring it on her, right? Which is like, hey, we have these papers we want to publish, but just so you know, we might go to jail.
Yeah.
Like we might be held in contempt. And that's like the scene right after she just got done pouring her heart out to her daughter and saying like, oh man, I don't want to mess everything up. I'm so scared. I have to walk so carefully. And now she has to walk even more carefully than she did whenever she made that confession. And it's the scene whenever she has to choose to publish, and she's just like, let's do it. Let's just do it. Or something like that. The way she says it, she's like, let's just do it. And it just seems so like, I'm nervous, but I'm firing on adrenaline right now, right? Like her performance there I thought was really good. And I think this is my favorite. Like we're pretty hard on this movie so far, but I will say that I think this is my favorite Meryl Streep performance that I've seen in years. Like she doesn't feel like a cartoon. She feels like a real lady. I enjoy her performance. I just wish it didn't feel like she was shortchanged, if that makes sense.
Right. She didn't get enough time, or wasn't as focused on her as it should have been. And,
Right. But I do think the Alison Brie stuff really helps make her arc land a lot better for me.
Right. You know, the scene I really liked was, and it was prevalent to both of them, the Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep scene where Tom Hanks talks about being friends with Kennedy. And he's like, yeah, I was friends with him. And Kennedy knew that we were friends. Like, and he took advantage of that, you know, like by not letting me... by being friends, I didn't publish stuff that I should have. And we can't be friends. And especially after he's found out that Kennedy had been lying about Vietnam, you know, and the betrayal that he had. And I think Meryl Streep has a similar reaction to being friends with McNamara. You know, like McNamara had been lying, and when she confronts him, and she's like, "You've been sending our kids to war that you knew we couldn't win." You know, like, and I thought that was both those scenes were really good. But ultimately, I'm probably lukewarm on it.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah, there's really good parts in it, I think.
I really want to like it more because I think, as we've said, like, it's a response to things that are going on in like our current climate, and I think that gives it potential to be, you know, really interesting and really hit home,
really powerful.
Yeah, and it never quite got there for me, and so yeah, I agree. It's a shame that they didn't take more time, that it's, you know, not a better film.
One thing I actually liked a lot, and I'll shout out another performance, was Bob Odenkirk. He's been really good in Better Call Saul. He was good in Breaking Bad. Usually he's a comedy guy. But in this movie, I feel like he's one of the more interesting side characters. He gets some of the most interesting stuff to do. He actually has to go get the papers, and he has lots of little scenes on payphones and in airplanes where he's trying to keep...
He's got the espionage part, right?
Right, and I find that just on like a purely... this is the process in which reporters go through to do their job. I find that interesting inherently of itself. It's not enough to, I guess, save the movie in that middle lull while they try to decide whether or not they should publish something that we all know they're going to publish. But I think that Bob Odenkirk's really good in that scene. And I think that he deserves a shout out. And even like some of the smaller players, like Carrie Coon.
Was that Carrie Coon? That was from The Leftovers.
Yeah, you should know that from Leftovers and from Fargo season 3.
I thought she was what's the lady's name from Fringe?
I don't know.
The blonde. She was in
You're
Mindhunters
the only one that
too.
watched Fringe, I think.
Anyways, I thought she was somebody else.
Nah.
Yeah.
Well,
if we're real quick, I think a lot of the people that are in this movie, they do a pretty good job of making them unrecognizable.
Yeah.
In certain places, or at least like, unless you know it's them, then like it's hard to figure out. Like, I didn't realize it was Alison Brie because I didn't look up any like cast information until like
there's a couple
way
scenes
later in the movie. And same with like David Cross. It took me like 2 scenes to pick him out.
Now, has he gained weight or? And I don't mean to, like,
he's got an extra chin.
Oh, I didn't know if that was a suit because I've never seen David Cross look like that. And
No, I noticed it in Arrested Development season 4.
Oh, was he?
Like after watching 1 through 3, like seasons 1 through 3, and then going and watching Arrested Development season 4, you're like, oh man, David Cross gained an extra chin.
Yeah, and the dad from Get Out was also in it, and like very unrecognizable as well. Like
he was the stockholder guy.
Yeah.
What is his name?
Oh yeah, and Michael Stobarg was in this one again.
He was too. He was a little more recognizable to me, but just because I think he's very distinct.
Yeah, he is.
But they didn't hide Meryl Streep or Tom Hanks as much. But I think like an interesting job done on the makeup and costume for like not letting it feel like a cast full of like celebrities or people that we know, you know.
Yeah, no one was too beautiful for their part.
Right.
Like distractingly good looking. Yeah, Michael Stobarg was in this one as well, although his performance isn't nearly as rewarding as it is in Shape of Water or Call Me by Your Name.
No, it's
he
almost
just gets a boring part.
Yeah, it's unnecessary to have Michael Stobarg in that part. Like I got excited to see like whatever he's gonna do. Like, what is this character going to add up to? And the answer is nothing.
What part did he play?
He was. I don't.
Was
remember.
he the advisor to Meryl Streep?
He was the guy with like the really dark hair with the glasses. Like he's having dinner with Meryl Streep at one point, and then they come and
Was he the
someone
editor
talks
of
to him, and he's like,
the New York
"I gotta go."
Times?
He had to get up and leave dinner.
Yeah, with the
with
wife,
Meryl Streep,
and that's
then
when
Meryl
Streep's
got
like,
up too, and was like, "I'm going to pay for this dinner or whatever," which is about as exciting as that sounds.
He was Abe Rosenthal.
Yeah, he was the guy in charge of the New York Times.
I do want to talk about Bob Odenkirk a little bit, or at least like a scene with him. I'm pretty sure it was him. I should have taken better notes, but I think it's in the scene where he goes to actually get the papers from the guy who's stolen them, and he meets up with him in like that hotel room, and the guy's trying to make sure that if he gives these things to Bob Odenkirk, will he promise to print them? Basically, he asks him, basically like, would you go to prison to start this war? And Bob Odenkirk says, theoretically, which I thought was really interesting and kind of like what I thought was going to be like the big theme of the movie. I had that scene right. Like that was Bob Odenkirk and the guy that did that. Yeah. But I thought that was going to be like the crux, the focus of the movie. And so I kind of wrote it down because it felt like this really like important moment. And one of the things that actually like really piqued my interest was this idea. And like, and unfortunately we just didn't go down that road enough for me, but that whole scene, like his answer of like, he said theoretically and some other stuff that I don't remember like verbatim, so I'm not going to try to quote it, but that I really like that whole scene in the hotel room. That was probably my favorite scene in the whole movie.
But basically, it's like, how much is the truth worth to you on principle?
Yeah, would you go to prison? If you release these, you will go to prison. I mean, and I think that's another thing that has happened a lot in modern times with Snowden. People that, whether you agree with them or not, are releasing information because they think it's the right thing to do.
Like, should they be punished for doing such a thing?
Yeah.
Like, is it patriotic or is it treasonous? You know,
and it's a fine line, between patriotic and treason, especially when you're releasing information.
And if this movie was trying to be more timely and trying to really resonate, they should have explored that idea a little bit more too, because that's an idea that is constantly in the news every time someone tries to blow the whistle on anything. Now, you have some 24-hour news networks immediately labeling them as a treasonous person, depending on, what secrets they release and how their agendas line up. I wish they would have explored that idea a little bit more, right? Which is like, what is the price of doing this kind of thing? And maybe we should be grateful to the people who pay that price or who are willing to pay that price. Instead, it just felt more like a let's pat ourselves on the back, and make a movie it's basically just like, newspapers are important because sometimes government lies to us, and it's like, we all knew that whenever All the President's Men came out. We knew that, right, like 8 newspaper movies ago.
I think ultimately my final thoughts would be, we have 2 movies in this, one about Meryl Streep and one about the papers, the Pentagon Papers.
The actual process of doing their jobs.
Yeah. And neither one of them quite get fully explored like I would have hoped or wished, and maybe made as 2 movies or, something along those lines would be really good. And ultimately I think we've already said it, but like, it got rushed and it was a reactionary thing to Trump, and ultimately it didn't, it's not quite as good as it could be, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree, which is disappointing because every time Steven Spielberg has a new movie that comes out, I'm always excited. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Seems like lately he's been letting me down.
Yeah, and I guess like my final thing is I do feel like it does feel like sort of almost like paint by number newspaper movie at times, and maybe paint by number movie in general. Like, it feels like a movie that was like bred for being an Oscar contender, and there's a lot of like sort of cliche stuff going on. Like, I kind of got a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth like at the beginning of the movie because we went to like Vietnam and got like the 100th movie that is in Vietnam with Creedence Clearwater Revival playing in the background, right? And I understand that that's like, it's the music of the time and it makes sense, but it just seemed too easy,
Right. It's like
the whole movie seems too easy when it comes to like getting the Oscar picture nomination, and that's why they rushed it, right? Like, also like the timeliness of it, but also the timeliness to release in time for Oscar season and within the Oscar season. Trump's going to be president for like 3 more years. Like if you came out with this in the spring or in the summer, like it would still be relevant.
Right. Like in
Yeah,
2018.
like put it out for next Oscars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it probably also had to do with Spielberg's schedule, is what my guess would be too. He had a window and he could do this, and then he's booked for the next 5 years doing Indiana Jones and whatever else he's
That's
doing.
true. He does have Indiana Jones he has to work on.
And I think he's got another one in there too that I've heard about, but I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, and there's hundreds of other directors out there that could also take this story too. I don't know why Steven Spielberg would have to do it.
I think he probably just wanted to do it, and they were like, hey, if you want to do it, fine. You could be the one to make this movie, but it's being made this year no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have any final thoughts, Mike? We haven't really...
No, I don't think so, other than just, it's good, not great, but if you're looking for a movie to restore your faith in the print industry and in the press, watch Spotlight. It came out a couple years ago. It's starring Michael Keaton and Mark Ruffalo, and it is superior in every way.
Yeah, every single way, for sure. Agreed.
I haven't seen it yet, but maybe I'll try to get to it this week.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's on
so
Netflix.
good.
Cool. I'll have to try it.
So, yeah. All right. So, last thing before we go, real quick, this is the wrap on our Best Picture nominee coverage. So now that we've talked about everything, what do you guys want to win Best Picture? Not what do you think is going to win Best Picture, but what do you guys want to win Best Picture? Mike?
Oh, my. I wasn't expecting that question.
Good. Then you got to go off instinct.
So
you haven't had time to overthink
I'll let
it.
you think about it real quick, Mike. I haven't seen Call Me by Your Name or The Shape of Water, both of which I'm looking forward to. I'm still catching up, but I will say out of the ones I've seen, and this is why the Oscars are kind of silly. My two favorite ones would be Dunkirk and Lady Bird. And how do you compare those two movies? They're so different. Like, which one's the better one? Or I guess my favorite would probably be Lady Bird. I think that's even better than Dunkirk. I mean, ultimately, I just really loved Lady Bird. But I could still be surprised if I watch the other two to catch up, and one of them tops Lady Bird, then I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, if I would say which one do I want to win, I think just out of most interesting sake, I would say Get Out or Phantom Thread, because I feel like those are the two that stand the least chance to win.
Sure. So you just want to see like the upset underdog victory?
Yeah, I'd like to see something that no one's really anticipating. I think Get Out would be more fun.
What's your favorite one, though, if you were to vote?
Phantom Thread or Dunkirk. Maybe Shape of Water, but I think I like Phantom Thread and Dunkirk more than I like Shape of Water. But I would like Get Out or Phantom Thread.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Mike, on Get Out. Like I really like it as the underdog in the film that's not like an Oscar film, and for that reason, I really want it to win, just to kind of buck the system. I always get on board with that sort of attitude. But personally, like the film that I actually think is like the best film, I think I'm really tied between Lady Bird and Call Me by Your Name. I don't think I could really pick on the difference. They're too tight for me, and they're both kind of just right up my alley, and kind of speak to me more so than than Dunkirk or Shape of Water, which are both great, but Lady Bird and Call Me by Your Name are the ones that actually got to me personally, and I would want to revisit again so I can experience the emotions again, like the emotions that I didn't get from Dunkirk or Shape of Water or any of the other nominees.
Yeah, I wish I felt that way about Call Me by Your Name. I think I let myself get too excited for that movie before I saw it. I was expecting another Carol, or something like that. But yeah, I agree. Call Me by Your Name, I would not be upset at all if that won. I think it'd be well deserved.
All right, so that's it for the bonus episode. So thanks for listening. Thank you, Jake Wagner-Russell, for creating our intro and outro music. You can listen to more of his music at soundcloud.com/bopscotch. And just a reminder again, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those social medias. You can do so at facebook.com/casualcinemedia, or you can join our group on Facebook and talk about your favorite Oscar films, whatever it is that you want to talk about, at facebook.com/groups/casualcinemedia. You can follow us and talk to us on Twitter and Instagram at casualcinemedia, or if you just want to email us directly, and you can do so at casualcinemedia@gmail.com.
Yeah, so next week we're going to be doing the Samurai Trilogy. We're going to do all three of them. It's spine number 14 through 16.
And one last thing, we are actually going to be doing a bonus review of Annihilation coming out sometime within the next few days. So be on the lookout for that. I'm sure it will be an interesting conversation.
All right. Well, until
All right,
next
guys.
time, we'll see you later.
See you later.
Bye.